After a massive surge in inventory this year, the Kelowna housing market is seeing something shocking. Prices are finally dropping. And in one segment of the market, sales have surged 50%. Buyers are in control right now with interest rates coming down and the rising inventory tipping the scales in their favor. But here's the big question. How long will this golden window last before the market flips again? Stick around because I'm breaking down the stats and what it actually means for you. And the first stat is, did you know that 90% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? If you're finding this content helpful and you want to stay in the loop on everything Kelowna real estate, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now let's go ahead and jump into the market stats for the end of October of 2024. So this is for the Central Okanagan or the Kelowna area. And this is the overall residential market here that I'm going to start with. So the total number of sales across all property types, excluding vacant lots, is 409 in October, and that's up 42% since this time last year. Now I have this little flame here just to remind us that we did have all the fires last year, and although it was out pretty well into October, but we still did feel the effects of the sales leading into October. So we did have a big increase over this time last year, and I do have this small print here. 263 sales was in last month in September of 2024, just to give you an idea of how much sales have jumped over the last month. And sales over the last month have jumped 55%. Now, total dollar volume for all those sales was just over $351 million. And that's up 60% over this time last year. The average sale price across the Central Okanagan was $858,000 across all property types. And total number of active listings that we're sitting at right now is just under 4,000 active listings, and that's up 26% over this time last year. And the number of new listings that hit the market in October is 934, up 2%. Now let's dive into the prices for single family homes. This video is just going to be based on single family homes and obviously the overall market. I'm going to do separate videos on condos and townhouses, which I normally do every single month if you are new to the channel. So this one is, single family homes ending October of 2024. So there's a lot going on here, which I've added a little bit every single month it seems. But let's start way back in 5 years ago, in 2019. So the average price this is the benchmark price. So the typical home that you see in the Central Okanagan. So the typical home in 2019, October 2019, was $693,000. So then we had a huge run up, follow this blue line, we had this huge run up here to the peak of the market of just under 1.2 million, and that was in March of 2022, and that was a 70% increase in those 5 years, mostly in 2021 and 2022. And then as interest rates went up, prices started to come down, and where we're sitting right now, we're at just under $1 million. We're down to almost 5% since this time last year. And so we're at just 983,000 here for the typical single family home. And that was down 16.7% since the peak of the market. And I just want to give a shout out to someone that's been commenting on the last couple videos here. And it seems like he does more sort of technical analysis sort of stuff. So I just want to give a shout out to him. He did say prices were going to come down. That was Mr. D4295. So if you're watching this video, you're absolutely right. So looking at the way this triangle is here, he mentioned that prices were expected to come down, and by his technical analysis, they absolutely did. Now, I'd be interested to hear Mr. D's input on this, if anything's changed. We haven't seen a price dip of 5% in quite some time. It's always been around the $1 million mark. I think the last few months has only been $100 to maybe $500 change there, so not a lot there. Now let's see just where we're sitting historically here. So we take this red line back to where we are. From where we are, we're sitting at July of 2021 prices. And if you did happen to buy in this large sort of bubble here, or any of these, you have lost value. Hopefully you don't have to sell. Your house price has probably gone down a bit or quite a bit, but hopefully you don't have to sell. You just wait out the market and it will rebound as history has told us. And just for fun, just to see where we're sitting at 5 years ago from October 2019, we've had a run up of still 42%. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into the single family home stats for the end of October. So the number of sales that we had in October was 179, up 60% over this time last year, which seems like a lot, and it is. We had a lot more sales, but do remember we did have those fires last year, so that did lead into October with the lower number of sales. But just last month, we only had 117 sales, and I think that was actually less or maybe like a couple more than when we had the fire season. So last month was September was absolutely really, really slow. So we actually had a 53% increase in sales in 1 month. So we'll have to see if this trend continues leading into November and December. I don't think it will. Maybe the first half of November, but leading into December and January, it's typically our slow season where we see, maybe 90, maybe break 100 sales. But we'll have to see what happens this year. The benchmark price, we're sitting at, again, 983,000, up or down just about 5% there. Days to sell. So this is my favorite stat to go through because it does take an extra bit of time. The days to sell that are advertised by our board, if you're new to my channel here. So the real days to sell are a lot different than what's advertised by our board. So we're being told that it's taken about 2 months to sell right now. Where the real days to sell, we're sitting at about 3 months to sell. Now, where the difference comes in is the board doesn't include cumulative days to sell. So a property could sit on the market for 60 days, get relisted and sell in 1 day, and then that 1 day is what's recorded as the days to sell when it actually took 61 days to sell. So that's not included. Whereas I go through every single listing, I figure out which ones were relisted and then when they finally sold. So an example of that, it's easier to show you here. And this is a great example. So especially because I went back to 2019 in that last graph there. So this house sold in 2019 for 1.219. And it just shows you the price appreciation as well over the last 5 years. So this property was listed in March 2024, sat on the market for 105 days at this price, and then it got relisted a few days later, and then it sat on the market for another 83 days at this new price here. Then they lowered it to 1.799, and so October, you can see October 8th there. Then October 30th, they relisted for 1 day, and it sold for the asking price of 1.74. Now that's what I mean by the real days to sell. So our board would just include the 1 day to sell, whereas it actually took 189 days to sell over the year. Now some of the homes, like the brand new homes, the more expensive properties take longer to sell, and I actually didn't include those in the 99 days to sell. So keep that in mind if you are looking to sell right now. It's taking on average about 3 months on market, not the advertised 2. Now the list to sale price ratio, we've been hovering around 97% all year. Basically means that on average, let's say you have your home listed for $1 million. On average, you and the buyer are negotiating about 3% off the list price. So it would potentially sell for $970,000 on average. And a lot of people have been at, not a lot, but a few people have asked, but what's the original list to sale price ratio before all those price drops or relists? And it's about an extra 1% off right now. And the amount of single family inventory has jumped 24% in the last year. We're sitting at just over 1,400 single family home listings. Now, if we take that inventory, we divide it by the number of sales, that gives us the months of inventory, or how long it would take to sell off all that inventory if we didn't have one other home listed in theory. So it would take about 8 months of inventory, or sorry, it'd take about 8 months to sell off that inventory, meaning that we are in a buyer's market. And just for context, last month we had 14 months of inventory. Then we had all these sales, which helped bring that number down. Now, another stat I've added for this month is the absorption rate. So that's basically the months of inventory calculation flipped around. So we take the number of sales divided by the number of inventory, and that gives us 12.6%. So 12.6% of homes are selling right now, puts us in that buyer's market still. And if we break that down to the number, out of 10, 1.26 out of every 10 homes are selling right now. So basically, if you're not number one on your, if you have your home listed right now, if you're not number one, it's not going to sell in a given month. Your home has to be priced right, look right, be the perfect home out of 10 on your street or in your area right now for it to sell. Now, if you're more interested in the condo and townhouse market, check out these videos here.